Out here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. This now is going to be the third part of the interview with drummer, writer and also fashion designer. It is the one and only Terry Graham. So this is part 3, as I probably just said. Anyway, so picking up from part 2, which is normally the way these things work, we discuss really what happens post-band when he gets back home. Anyway, Terry's going to tell us more. He's going to tell us everything. Terry, it's over to you.
Yeah, and then we after we got back, it was just kind of one of those things after, some years doing all of that and the intensity of all those early days, basically almost living on the street in Los Angeles, just 24/7 involved with seeing bands every night and just a crazy kind of life. Fun and loved every minute of it, really. But I think it was just time for sort of a break. And so we went back to Amy's hometown in suburbs of Chicago, took care of her mother for a little while. She passed away shortly after. And then it was just kind of like, well, what do we do? And so I ended up staying there for 7 years in Chicago. And I bought a suit. I became a stockbroker. I went to work every day on the train. and I froze my ass off. So Chicago was very cold.
Yes. And how do you make that kind of jump? Because it's not like you've been to college or had been some sort of apprenticeship. So how do you manage to sort of make that jump from, yes, I was in a band, slightly dysfunctional, some nice characters, to suddenly, oh yes, I'm now on the stockbroker front.
Yeah. How do I convince them of this? Well, at the time, which was in the 80s, I mean, that whole thing sort of intrigued me, and I was, interested in making some money, and I sort of liked all of that. I sort of put myself in a role where if I learned to do this, I could go back to Los Angeles, and all those kind of feckless, clueless people who make all this money, whether it's in music or movies or whatever, maybe I could help them. Maybe I could actually be a voice of reason in a sea of sharks, that are just trying to take them for their money. They don't know what to do with it. Especially those situations where people make money, a lot of money suddenly, they really are overwhelmed by it. Yes. And they have 100 voices screaming in their ear, what to do. Here's what you do, and they don't know who to believe, who to trust. And I thought, well, I've been there, I've done it. I know what that's like, although not to make sudden money, but, I could be a voice of reason in all this. So I really did have some, something behind it. It wasn't completely nefarious. I genuinely wanted to do that. It didn't work out like that, but I was able, these at the time in the 80s in America, making money and sort of being all that whole Wall Street thing, they'd hire anybody. I mean, if you can pass the tests, the state and federal tests to become what is called a registered representative, and it was about an 8-hour test, all about money and finances and some general questions, some very particular questions about. And I had read up and studied, and I had a huge, thick book that, had all kinds of practice answers, and I passed the test. So I did it, and but I'm also in a relationship. It's also has its own dynamic, and that kind of takes us here and takes us there. We went to Texas for a little while, and so eventually it doesn't quite work. I knew that eventually I just wanted to make my way back to Los Angeles. And some years later I did. And I wanted to write a book, which I did. And I was going to write a book about the scene and stuff that happened. And a friend of mine in New York, she was very blunt. And she's just like, well, I'm not going to read the damn thing if it's just about everybody else. I'll read it if it's about you. And I said, well, I'm not a celebrity. I can't who cares? And she said, well, but if you're going to do a book like that, sort of an insider's account, it's got to be about you. And that was hard for me to accept. It's like, well, who wants to know about that?
So what's the book called, by the way?
Well, it's called Punk Like Me, Liner Notes for a Revolution That Almost Happened. And it came out 2 or 3 years ago now. Now I re-edited the whole thing, and I'm actually in negotiations with a UK publisher to bring it out for the UK, for Europe, and for all of that. It never made it over. I never had a distributor originally 3 years ago when it first came out.
Right.
But I felt like the revolution that so-called sort of the whole punk rock thing was it happened later, but it didn't happen for us. We wanted to change the playlists on radio. We thought that American youth would love the Ramones and all that followed, and just beat a path to this kind of music because it was so fun and so different and so exciting. Of course, that did not happen. Instead, they went for Guns N' Roses or
Yes.
Motley Crue. So it was like a lesson. If you look around, and I said this in the book, like when we were touring the Midwest of America, and I said, wow, people really love their corn around here. And I meant that in a food way, and I also meant that in a cultural way. They really like their bland sort of thing, but that can't be true. It's not true. When they see something better, they'll go for it. And, at the end of the tour, I realized, wow, you know what? People really do like their corn, and they're not going to give it up. And so it's just like, at some point you realize, well, I'm a part of something that's got a lot of very intense fans, but it's never going to be more than that. And even if it was or wasn't, why do you want it to be that anyway? This is what I took away from all of it, was just the people and the relationships and the excitement of being a part of something so intense where people believed in it so much. And there was just so much creative music that happened in those years. And I'm like, well, if that's not a reward, I'm not sure what is.
Yes.
And being in Gun Club too, which, in New York, Billy Idol came backstage to one of our shows, and this was right after the Dancing with Myself single came out. He wasn't really going anywhere. It was before the albums where he became a big seller. And he asked me to join his band. He said, well, I'm going to put some guys together, and we're going to go in the studio, and we're going to do this white wedding thing. And his wife was with him at the time. And I was very flattered. I'm like, that's kind of tempting, but what is a Billy Idol? I don't even know. I mean, I like Generation X, and he was a great, really nice guy, and I thought, well, this could be fun. It could be cool, but is it different? Is it unique? Is it what I'm doing? Is it like Gun Club? Is it unique music like that? No, it's not going to be. And so, I finally just had to say, sorry, Mr. Idol. In spite of your name, and I think he really was a fan too. I mean, he liked roots music. He loved all that stuff. And I thought, well, it could be, almost like Kid and the Cramps, it's, well, not quite, but I could have a lot of fun doing that. But I'm really going to miss being a part of something that's just so unique that nobody else is even touching this. And I stayed with that, because even though I knew it was never going to go anywhere or make any real money, I thought the experience of that music, the experience of fans who really appreciated that, is just invaluable. I can't give that up. I just can't.
Yes.
It's not going to buy me a condo on the beach in LA. No, it's not. But I'm going to have something that's just really going to be special.
Yeah.
And speaking of corn, as corny as that may sound, I believed it, and I'm glad I did it, because it was fun to be on that ride with Jeffrey. As crazy and wacky as he could be.
And with the band and its legacy, are you one of the people who's kind of really holding the baton, bringing out, reissues and sort of overseeing it, or is that a whole different, gig for some?
Well, I'm not overseeing it, but I am, in a way, the last man standing, sort of. Ward doesn't want to have anything to do with those things. We were never paid any royalties. Jeff kind of played with the numbers, and so we never got anything from any record.
Mm,
And it wasn't fair, and that was really like a genuine complaint we had about our experience with Jeff. That's not right. You can't do that. Um, and I mean, I could see if we're all making millions of dollars, sure, you withheld a couple of 100,000. But when we're making just a few thousand, every dollar counts.
mm,
And we might need that, or we needed it. We didn't get it. So a many years long battle finally ended with Ward and I, owning a proportionate share of Fire of Love. And now, I didn't know what that meant at the time, but there was some people that came around that contacted me, a couple of lawyers that were working with Jeff's family, and this company called Blixa Sounds was going to re-release and remaster all of these things. And since Ward didn't want to have anything to do with writing liner notes or anything, it just fell to me. And so Fire of Love Miami and soon to be released Las Vegas Story, I ended up writing most of the notes, supplying a lot of photographs, and just helping as much as I could to bring these out and make them. I helped make decisions on some of the live recordings. That videotape that was stolen from us, a few hours survived.
right.
Unfortunately, not from Europe, when Amy was really much better with the camera and everything. But a few hours did survive from America and a Canadian show that was included as a DVD if you buy the CD. It's a download if you get the vinyl. And it's really good. It's a show that we did in Toronto, plus a few little bits after that. But I just think it's Gun Club. To me, it's the ultimate Gun Club. It's ironic that the one piece that was saved, the one show that was saved, couldn't have been more indicative of what a Gun Club show is really like. A crazy, wacky. I don't know if he was drunk. I don't know what. Jeff. Bad sound. Well, no, not bad sound, but bad lighting. I mean, it's dark. It was just a sweaty, crazy Gun Club show. And so we played with that, tried to make it as good a quality as we could. It's actually pretty good. So that'll be included. And so I just helped add things like that to make these things
Nice.
as good as they could be. I didn't want fans to think any of this was just rushed out or thrown out there. No, we really spent a lot of time trying to find the best stuff, remastering things, tweaking things, making it as good as we could. Some of these recordings, decades old. So
Yeah. And what's it like? Because obviously you play such an important part of the band in the early years, but then there's kind of the other period of the band. Do you, when you sort of engage or listen to that, does that sort of have much kind of interest for you, or do you just completely leave
yeah,
it?
it does. Well, it does because I became a fan of Jeff's songwriting, and I kind of became a fan of Jeff's creative process wherever it was going. I think Jeff wanted to be on stage ultimately for one reason, and that was not necessarily to wrestle with his personal demons, but to exercise his personal demons, to get rid of them, to put them out there, to give voice
Yes.
to them. And I know that's true with a lot of bands. I mean, it defines a lot of rock and roll, but for Jeff in particular, because he did have some personal issues going on that none of us really figured out. He wasn't. I think if he had just lived, he would have talked about them and worked through them and all that. But I was fascinated by that process and kind of seeing that on stage. Jeff could be really belligerent on stage. He could also be hilarious. He would say things to the audience that I thought, oh my God, Why did you just say that? You just called them all a bunch of sweaty cocksuckers. Why did you do that, Jeffrey? That's not going to win any friends. We opened for Billy Idol, actually, at the. This is the irony of him asking me to be in the band at the Long Beach Arena. 14,000 people, sold out. Well, Jeff and Billy knew each other. Blah blah blah. So we opened for them, and when the lights went down, we were not on the marquee. So when the lights went down, all people saw was a vaguely blondish head of hair coming out from the side of the stage. They thought it was Billy. Well, the lights went up. It wasn't Billy. The boos started. I mean, to me, it's to hear 14,000 people booing is almost like I wish everyone could experience that, because it was just a kind of tremendous force, that like a dark force that was fascinating. And then almost immediately the coins, began to fly at us. I wish I'd picked them all up.
Mm.
And I'm thinking while I'm playing drums and I'm looking off to the side, there was sort of this mezzanine level that went to the side of the stage, and it's all of these really kind of typical American, middle American night out jock, what we would call jocks,
Yes.
and just flipping us off, just saying everything awful they could think of to us. Of course, we couldn't hear it, but we could see their mouths move and hating us. I mean, just like wanting to kill us. I'm like, wow, where does that come from? Why is that so intense right now? You'll get your Billy Idol in a minute. Just
Yes.
let the opening band do their thing. And they just, oh my God, they were so antagonistic. And
Yes.
so Jeffrey, being Jeff, after about 5 songs, I forget what he told them. He basically told the audience, all of you collectively together can go fuck yourself. And that was it. Somebody grabbed the microphone or grabbed a cord and jerked it out of his hands, and it disappeared into the audience. And that's when the lights went down, and that's when our show was over. And I'm thinking the whole time, I could have been in the headliner, but no, here I am opening for that band. I'm making we're getting paid $300 to do this. I don't know what they're getting paid. It's a few thousand. I know that.
Blimey.
So anyway, but it was still
Yes.
funny. And
It's yeah, absolutely. And then you've also got another side hustle, isn't it, with your clothing company?
Yes, well, I've always loved clothes. I just never gave it any attention other than buying them. And kind of always in the back of my mind, I love this, I love that, and reading about it, and it was just a thing. I just thought, well, yeah, for me personally, I'll get these things and I'll wear them, and I just kind of appreciated the aesthetic of it anyway, regardless. And I had a girlfriend who used to joke with me about when we would go shopping. Um, she'd we'd go to a big department store or whatever, and she would say, well, I don't know where the terry wear is, but it's probably over there. Because I was always choosing these sort of, these checked patterned shirts and this kind of 60s looking or anything vintage looking,
Yes.
and she went, well, there's your terry wear. And so eventually when I'm like, I started talking to Judith Bell, who was the artist for the Fire of Love sketches and illustrations on the back. And I said, well, why don't we make T-shirts? And, so she said, yeah, great, let's do that. And so we're doing it. And I thought, well, I should create a company out of this. I don't just, Uncle Terry's shirt shop. I can't do that. So I did, because I thought, well, eventually I'm going to do this and I'm going to make a few more different things with T-shirts, but I want to branch out into a completely, a complete wardrobe, first for men, and then, it'll be women as well, and everything in between, whatever. And so Terry wear is kind of how that happened. And I am on the verge. I've got some people that are actually making stuff now, other, not just T-shirts. And so for me, it's really fun. I really love doing it. And it's not It's not a high pressure thing. It's just clothes I can't find that I
Yes.
wish I could.
Excellent.
It's like, kind of like a modern vintage thing. I love old vintage fabrics and the fabric design. That's what I'm trying. That's what I want to reproduce. That's what I want to have. No costumes, nothing that screams, just stuff that's really cool and fun that you could wear, anywhere and look good. I mean, my God, how many of us see, guys, including me, that walk around looking like slobs? I mean, it's like,
I
no,
know.
wait a minute. There's a solution for you. I've got it right here.
This is true. I know. I
Try
know.
this,
Now
So,
I live in a hoodie, which is terrible, isn't it? It's terrible.
and I
But
do all
yes,
that same thing,
I know
So,
it's
so
tricky.
it's just fun to do.
I mean, lastly, when you got the news that Jeffrey had passed away, were you quite surprised that was that quite a shock for you?
No, no. That was not a surprise at all. Sad, but not surprised. I thought, wow, he actually lived a long time considering what he's ingested. The odd thing was that I was not living in LA. I had visited LA. I actually went to the Viper Room of all places, which I just wanted to stay away from at all costs because it had been so overblown with Johnny Depp and all these celebrities that, pretending to be rock and roll and here's
Yeah.
my nightclub and this is proof I'm, all just fake crap. And but nonetheless, I went, and there was Jeff, also there, I guess, ironically. And I hadn't talked to him in over a decade. And there was a lot of animosity, there was a lot of rumors, and a lot of his fans, like in his fan clubs right now, they don't like me because they I talked badly of him in a documentary, and I did, and I kind of regret that. I wish I hadn't, but I was pissed,
Hmm.
but I've been trying to make up for it ever since. But those people will always be. I'll always be the Judas or something. That's fine. I can wear that and not have a problem. But there was Jeff, and I just said, oh, what do I do? Well, I walked over to him. I stuck out my hand. I said, how you doing, Jeff? And we shook hands. And it was just like 10 years of absence when all of these rumors and these things fly. And he wrote things about me and my girlfriend at the time, Amy, that her dad invented napalm or some completely ridiculous thing like that. Her dad was a private in the army in the 50s. He was one of the guinea pigs that tested napalm, but he never invented napalm. I'm like, oh my God, Jeff, you got that so wrong. But all of that kind of thing is swirling around in the meantime, and then we are face to face. And I just met him. He smiled. I smiled. I said, "What are you doing, man? Let's talk." And he actually looked good. I didn't think he looked bad. I'd heard lots of rumors about that too. He
Mm.
handed me his card, and all it said on the card was just show business. That's it. No phone number, no Jeff. It just said show business. And I thought, oh my God, Jeffrey, that's the most perfect business card I've ever seen. It's got there's no way to contact you. It's just show. I mean, it was his little joke, And he died about 5 months later.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, there's an initial shock, like, wow, how could Jeff? He's been through so much. He survived so much. How could he finally succumb? It just seems like it's not possible. But then my second thought was, after everything that he's done to himself, it's not surprising. It's
Yes.
just a loss, it's a loss for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it was something you could have just whispered in your ear when you were 16, some sort of advice or the wisdom or experiences that you've had, and you could have just said something. Is there something that you would have just liked to have just imparted on that person?
Well, yeah, I mean, I know so many people in their 20s in bands, and I'm constantly going to see them and supporting them, and I'm so impressed by their energy and their desire to do this still, and I just tell them to stop and think every now and then. Stop and take stock of the people around you, and if if it's possible, really learn to appreciate them while you're doing it. I know it's hard because you don't have perspective, but really do that. And if there's anything that you see that doesn't feel right, or talk to them, tackle them in the parking lot if you have to, and find out what that is, because that person and that talent and that energy and that laughter that inspires you might be gone before you know it. Or at some point down the road, you might think, oh, 10 years from now, who knows what'll be happening? Well, no, you'll still know that person. You'll still be connected. And if they're suddenly no longer there, you don't have that anymore. So just stop and take stock of the people around you and appreciate them, and that connection that you feel, that energy that you share. Consider that the most valuable thing in life. It's when you go to sleep at night, that's what you're going to think about. I mean, if you won the lotto and you suddenly have millions of dollars, you might think about that too. But otherwise, that's what you take to the grave, I think, is those things. And they call me Uncle Terry now when I go out and watch them. It's Uncle Terry, yes. Uncle Terry, who was in Gun Club. And they all know Gun Club. I mean, in every song, there's such an appreciation. It just amazes me.
Yes. I mean, I was looking at Spotify. I mean, the monthly listening figures are extraordinary, aren't they? I mean, you must be getting more fans now than you ever had when the band...
I think so. I mean, yeah, and I'm kind of the point person. Here I am in LA, where we were born as a band, and all these people, of course, are aware of that history. They have the benefit of the internet, and they can learn these things and see these things and hear these things immediately. And so they in turn appreciate that I'm just out hanging out and I'm just enjoying what they're doing. And there's some really talented people. It's just tough for them right now to get their voices heard.
But when you listen to Mother of Earth, that's been played 7 million times.
I know. Listen, I was surprised. I really am. It's like I just love the fact that somebody else loves it. That was me and Jeff. I was just playing a snare drum and him singing at the same time. We just did that. And when somebody tells me that, and I do, people write and stuff, and over time, and I just, I try to be as connected to them as I can, and I try to give back as much as I can. I thought, well, a lot of people did things for me. I'm trying to do this for them in a particularly tough environment right now. It's really hard. And COVID, certainly didn't make it any easier. But now that they're all starting to play again, and the shows, I'm going to a show tomorrow night and then Saturday night of all these young people, young bands, and they've got so much energy, and they just love what they're doing. And I really feel like it's my duty almost to be right on that street with them, supporting them and telling them how much I enjoy what they're doing.
Yes. Well, that's a great thing to do. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it makes me feel good. I just enjoy it. So, you do what you can, whatever works. That's not the best way. I know lots of other people, my peers, doing various things. And it's all good. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, Terry, thank you ever so much for this. This has been amazing. I'm so pleased that even though we had to do 3 different sort of starts again, but at least we're good on Zoom. And are you still in the car? Are you still in the car?
I'm still in the car. Can you believe it? I'm still in the car.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's good.
Is it nice weather in LA, by the way?
It's David, I'm sorry to tell you this, but it's really right now perfection. It's about 69 degrees and the sun is out. There are a couple of clouds. Now, this is our time of year when the clouds will completely disappear. Rain will be something we only see on YouTube. And for 6 months, it's sad. That's why when I go to Texas next month, I'm hoping to see massive thunderstorms. I really miss them.
Yes.
But but it's actually quite nice here. Yes, it's really good. Now, it'll get hot. It'll get kind of difficult here as well, but yeah, I have to say it's pretty damn nice.
Brilliant. That's nice. Well, look, I'm going to go to bed, but thank you ever so much. And if
Yes,
you want, I can always send you the link for this, and that would be amazing. So you can always use
please
it.
do that, David. Yes,
I
please.
will.
Yes,
Okay,
really
look,
appreciate it.
take
And
care.
thank you, David, so much. I really, really enjoyed doing this too. Thank you.
Brilliant. Yeah, I'll look forward to your book as well, actually. That'll be very exciting.
Yeah, I'll keep you updated about how that's going to happen, because if it doesn't happen through the publisher, I've already got ways to get it to Europe and the UK on my own.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, it's just been completely redone, and I like it so much better now. But anyway, thank you, David. Really,
Yes.
really fun to do.
Take
Appreciate
care.
it.
And yeah,
Okay, you
look
too,
up.
man.
Love talking to you. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, bye, David.
Bye. And that, dear listener, is the end of the interview. I know you can wake up now. Anyway, look, a massive thank you to Terry Graham for giving me the time for that interview. So much appreciated, and hopefully he'll be bringing out more bits and pieces in the future. He seems to. You can find his website, which is, if you just do Terry Graham and probably put the Gun Club, you'll find his website. Anyway, this has been David Eastaugh, the C86 Show. If you want to contact me for some nice reason, you can on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And if it's not nice, I wouldn't bother, really. Don't even listen to these shows. Yeah, so that's that. And also, these interviews have all been archived. Lucky you. On Podbean, iTunes and Spotify. Anyway, look, that's it. Announcement's over. Have a great week. Stay safe.